Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror thriller films from 2023, titled Late Night with the Devil. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie begins with the narrator discussing the chaotic and violent times in America in the 1970s. The political and social situation was unstable, and demonic cults were on the rise. During the turmoil, a late-night talk show called Night Owl was launched in 1971 with a host named Jack Delroy. Night Owl competes for the most popular show with The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Over time, Jack's show also began to gain popularity, and the public grew fond of it. He helps an anxious nation forget its trouble. The following year, in 1972, he signed a 5-year deal with UBC Channel's owner. Jack's biggest supporter was his wife, Madeline, who was a stage actress. They appeared to be the happiest couple, and were adored by the entire country. During this time, rumors circulated that Jack was involved in a group called The Grove, an elite California organization for wealthy and influential men located in the woods. Their members consisted of many powerful industrialists, entertainers, politicians, and businessmen. There were also rumors that their rituals were believed to have the power to make or break careers. After 4 seasons of Night's Owl, Jack had become extremely popular and was thriving in his career, but ratings still failed to match The Tonight Show Johnny Carson. However, one day, his world turned upside down when Madeline was diagnosed with lung cancer, despite being a non-smoker. With very little time left, she made a special appearance on Jack's show. This episode became the highest-rated episode of Night Owl, but it still fell a point short of Carson's ratings. 2 weeks later, Madeline passed away, and Jack fell into a deep spiral of depression. His show began to suffer in ratings, and one day he simply vanished. However, 1 month later, he returned and decided to resume his show once again, even though it never regained its previous level of success. To recover his ratings, on Halloween night in 1977, a desperate Jack planned a special episode with an occult theme, which was expected to skyrocket the show's ratings. The narrator then states that the following film is the recently discovered master tape of what aired that night, along with previously unreleased behind-the-scenes footage. It is the live TV event that shocked a nation. Jack makes his entrance by playfully scaring his co-host, Gus, and cracking a few jokes. He then introduces his first guest for the night, who is a self-proclaimed psychic named Christu. After a brief introduction, Christu starts to demonstrate his abilities, and claims to hear the name Peterson.
I'm hearing the name Peterson.
Peterman?
What? I'm sorry?
A man named Barry in the audience recognizes the name, but corrects it to Peterman. He then reveals that it is his wife's maiden name. Christu tells him that the spirit of his wife is present in the room. However, Barry shares that his wife is alive and ran away with someone else 5 years ago. Hearing this, Christu realizes that his reading has failed and everyone begins to laugh. Shortly after, Christu announces that he's hearing the name Edward, and approaches a mother and daughter seated in the front row. The mother corrects him, revealing that her son's name is actually Edmund, not Edward. Christu then correctly deduces that Edmund committed suicide 5 years ago, which the mother confirms. He assures them that Edmund is at peace and present in the room, and this makes the mother and daughter emotional, and the audience applauds Christu. But moments later, his demeanor shifts dramatically. He claims that something very intense is happening, and calls out to anyone if they recognize the name Minnie. He states that Minnie is looking for an unmarried man with a ring, but no one in the studio recognizes the name. Suddenly, there's a glitch in the lights. After a moment, everything returns to normal, and Christu announces that Minnie has left the room. During the break, Christu begins to feel ill, and his nose starts to bleed. The show's producer, Leo, approaches Jack, and we learn that Barry is a paid actor hired for some comedy. When the show resumes, Jack introduces the second guest, Carmichael, a former magician turned skeptic. Carmichael doesn't believe in paranormal phenomena, and his work involves investigating and disproving such claims. He writes a check for $100,000, and promises to give it to those who can provide evidence to support their paranormal claims. Jack then asks him about his thoughts on Christu's earlier reading. Carmichael declares that Christu is a fraud, noting that he made multiple attempts before finally getting a correct guess. Jack mentions that at least he was right about Edmund's spirit, but Carmichael retorts that even a broken clock can be right twice a day. Hearing this, an enraged Christou throws water on his face and attempts to leave. However, Jack stops him. He suddenly asserts that Christou's last reading was accurate and was intended for him. He reveals that Minnie is a private nickname for his late wife, Madeline, and nobody else knew about it. He then reveals the ring on his finger, confirming that he is the unmarried man with the ring that Christou mentioned. Despite this, Carmichael remains skeptical and challenges Christou to summon Minnie's spirit again, offering him $500,000 if he succeeds. But then, the show quickly cuts to another commercial break as Christou is given urgent medical attention. During the break, Carmichael accuses Jack of revealing his wife's nickname to Christou to enhance the show's popularity. Jack denies this accusation, but Carmichael claims that he knows about his secret group, The Grove, and threatens to investigate it further. Shortly after, the show resumes and Jack reassures the audience that Christou is receiving medical attention backstage. He then challenges Carmichael to keep the reward check ready, as the next guest has the potential to finally debunk his skepticism. Jack then introduces a book titled Conversations with the Devil by Dr. June Ross Mitchell. He announces that the next guest will be Dr. June, and her young subject, but before that, he wants to show a video produced by June's Psi Research Center. The video shows a normal-looking home inside which a satanic cult group is worshipping a demon named Abraxas. According to their leader, Xandor Dabo, Abraxas teaches them that there is no good or evil, but only desires that can be fulfilled through sacrifice. The FBI is looking into the cult because they are accused of crimes like kidnapping and having illegal guns. There are also scary claims that they breed children for human sacrifice. In 1974, the FBI took notice and conducted a raid on their church. The standoff lasted 3 days, and when there was no way out, Dabo orders his followers to douse the premises and themselves in gasoline. The premises and its members were destroyed, but a 10-year-old girl named Lily was luckily rescued alive. Was Lily's survival part of Dabo's wicked master plan, or was she simply the lucky one? After Lily's rescue, her strange behaviors prompted her to be taken to see the parapsychologist Dr. June in 1976. Lily and June establish an immediate connection, and during their first session together, they managed to communicate with the demon inside Lily, but the demon refused to engage with her, and Lily got out of control. Returning to the show, Jack excitedly welcomes June and Lily as the final guests. We notice the teenager acting very strangely as if someone else is controlling her body. She does not look at Jack or the audience, instead, she stares directly into the camera. Here, Lily informs Jack that she has heard of his wife's death and expresses her condolences. She reassures him that he does not need to worry about the show, because he will become famous very soon, and then Jack calls for a break. Backstage, June shares with Jack that she doesn't want to proceed with the interview because Lily has been very unpredictable lately. She tells him that Lily was consistently mentioning his name last night, which is strange. June suggests canceling the segment before anything bad happens, but Jack refuses because he needs to increase his ratings. Following this, Leo approaches Jack and shockingly reveals that Christou passed away on the way to the hospital. Jack is shocked, but he asks Leo not to tell anyone about it. Soon, the show resumes, and Jack asks June if the demon she claimed to be inside Lily is actually Abraxas. June clarifies that it's just a minor deity who serves Abraxas. Plus, items retrieved from the Abraxas church are kept on the table, including the sacrificial dagger. But then all of a sudden...
Oh God! Turn off your TV sets before Abraxas claims your soul!
Carmichael begins to mock the dagger, pretending to be attacked. Seeing this, June becomes angry, and Jack asks Lily about the name of the demon inside her. She says she calls him Mr. Wriggles, because he kind of wriggles his way inside her head, and then he wriggles his way out. All of a sudden, an instrument starts playing very loudly, disturbing everyone. The sound becomes so loud that even the glass breaks, and Gus attempts to turn off the instrument but receives an electric shock. Seeing this, Carmichael eventually unplugs the speaker cable, claiming that it was caused by interference from their PA system. However, Lily insists that it was Mr. Wriggles who did it. Jack then asks if Mr. Wriggles is present, and if it is okay to invite him on the show. June is clearly against this idea, as it could be dangerous, but Jack remains adamant. Even the audience starts to insist, despite the fact that summoning him requires a carefully controlled environment. Left with no choice, June reluctantly agrees, but asserts that she will only conduct the session if Jack's crew and the audience cooperate fully. During another break, June expresses her frustration to Jack for putting her in a tight spot. Meanwhile, Carmichael continues to mock her beliefs, so Jack reassures June that this is her opportunity to prove people like him wrong. Moments later, Gus urges Jack to stop before something terrible happens, but Jack refuses to listen, explaining that he's doing this to save their show. After the break, the conjuring session begins, and Lily is securely tied to a chair. June informs everyone that the demon inside Lily can manifest in various ways, but its entry into our world is only possible through Lily. She urges the audience to remain calm, no matter what they see or hear. Following this, June begins summoning the demon and instructs Lily to allow herself to sleep. Soon, when June attempts to communicate with Mr. Wriggles, it takes over Lily's body, causing her face and skin to appear demonic, and her voice becomes sinister. The demon then looks at Jack, and claims that it's good to see him again. Jack denies ever meeting it, but the demon insists that they go all the way back, and that they met among the tall trees. After this, June attempts to bring Lily back, but the demon taunts her by reminding her of the gruesome death of Jack's wife. It then begins to reveal how June and Jack are sleeping together. Hearing this, June becomes furious and slaps Lily, but it only makes things worse. As the demon becomes more aggressive, June shows her locket and begins reciting mantras. Unfortunately, the demon starts laughing and chanting the mantra along with June. Lily then speaks in Madeline's voice, asking Jack how he could have let this happen. Suddenly, the electricity goes out of control, and Lily begins to float away from the ground. But before any serious damage can be done, June manages to cut the connection, returning everything to normal. Jack is left completely speechless and dumbfounded, while Carmichael attempts to point out tricks he believes June used, but Jack interrupts him and calls for a break. During the break, he approaches June and remarks that tonight's episode was fantastic. Leo then approaches Jack, revealing that this episode has become the most watched TV event since the moon landing. The ratings have skyrocketed, outperforming even Johnny Carson's show. Jack is overjoyed to hear the news, but he is also concerned because he heard his wife's voice earlier, while Leo keeps talking about how great they are, before urging him to return to the show. In the next scene, the show resumes, and Carmichael claims that there is no demon inside Lily, but that she has been hypnotized and manipulated by June to behave erratically. He claims that he can prove this theory while fooling the audience, and he invites Gus to participate in his trick. Following this, Carmichael takes out a pocket watch and hypnotizes Gus. He instructs everyone present to focus on the clock for the trick to work. After a moment, Carmichael prompts Gus to share his fear of worms, to which Gus responds with disgust. Moments after Carmichael clicks his fingers, Gus suddenly squirms uncomfortably, complaining of itching and discomfort. Carmichael then suggests to Gus that his neck is bleeding, prompting Gus to check it. To his horror, Gus discovers what appear to be worms emerging from his neck. Panicked, he tears at his stomach, claiming to feel worms crawling inside him, and a large number of worms appear to come out of him. Everyone is horrified by the sight and they have no idea what's happening. Then, one of his eyes bulges out, and a massive worm emerges from it. Eventually, Carmichael snaps everyone out of the hypnotism, and everything returns to normal. Gus is actually fine, but he's the only one who has no memory of what just happened. Afterward, Jack asks Carmichael about the trick, and the latter claims that he used the same technique as June and hypnotized everyone. He asserts that the only way to know what truly happened is by rewinding the recorded tape and watching it. They rewind the tape and discover that, in fact, nothing had happened as it seemed. Following this, Jack asks the audience if any of them didn't see the worms. Some people raise their hands, revealing that they were not hypnotized because they weren't paying attention. Carmichael has now proven his point, but Lily asks Jack to rewind the tape of Lily's session to check if June also employed the same trick. As they rewind and review the tape, they are shocked to discover that the events were not a result of hypnosis. They appear unaltered in the recorded playback. Suddenly, there's a glitch on the tape, and Jack requests the frames be slowed down bit by bit. To their utter shock, they see a haunting image of Jack's dead wife standing directly behind him on the stage. But Carmichael remains skeptical and accuses Jack of orchestrating the entire situation. Just then, Lily begins trembling, and electricity starts running all over her body, right before the lights turn off for a moment. When they turn back on, a lightning bolt moves around the studio ceiling and connects with Lily. Her head splits open in two halves, emitting a strange glow, and the demon within her twists Gus's head and kills him. It then turns its attention to June, and throws Jack away. It slashes June's throat, also killing her. Witnessing all this, Carmichael finally becomes a believer and starts praying. He tries to give his check to the demon, but the demon makes the check vanish and then burns Carmichael alive. The whole audience is running for their lives, and Leo whisks Jack away backstage. But then, Jack finds himself transported to a nightmare-like world, where he relives moments from his past.
Here's Mr. Midnight, Jack Delroy!
Relax. Jack is perfectly harmless.
No.
He experiences the moment when he signed a 5-year deal, and a reporter asks about the sacrifices made for his success, so the channel owner remarks that Jack's biggest sacrifice is yet to come. Just then, 2 members of the Grove appear, and take Jack to meet Dabo and other cult members. This means that the Grove worships Abraxas as well, and Jack has previously participated in a satanic ritual with them. It was during this ritual that the demon, referred to as Mr. Wriggles, first encountered him among the tall trees. Following this, Dabo offers Jack a drink, and once he drinks it, Jack notices Madeline, who is ill and lying on the bed in front of him. It is then revealed that our protagonist made a deal with the devil, which resulted in his show gaining sudden fame, in exchange for sacrificing his beloved wife. This was why Madeline had been diagnosed with lung cancer despite being a non-smoker. Jack apologizes to his wife, claiming he did not know at the time that he was sacrificing her. However, she is not bitter and simply asks him to save her from her painful misery. Jack eventually stabs her with a dagger from the cult Lily escaped from. Just then, he finds himself back in the studio, having killed Lily, and standing over the bodies of the deceased guests. He struggles to understand whether this is reality or a figment of his imagination. In the distance, he hears police sirens gradually approaching the studio, and this is where the movie ends. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.